Welcome back to another volume of the Cinema Chronicles on Nashville Movie Dispatch. I am your host, Brandon Vick. I'm a member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association and a board member of the Music City Film Critics Association. It's the end of the month. We're about to hit the summer blockbuster season with, I think, Thunderbolts is kind of our first one that comes out, next week, I think. So that one actually looks pretty good for a Marvel movie. That one and Fantastic Four. I'm actually sort of excited. Not like super excited like I used to be, but I think the last Marvel movie I enjoyed was The Multiverse of Madness. I like that one a lot. But April's flown by. People have their lawnmowers out. Really sucks. Rain a lot. They ain't bullshitting about these April showers. But God, I can't wait to smell those Mayflowers and immediately sneeze my head off for days and weeks. Also, 4/20 was Easter. So smoke them bunnies if you got them. We had I think we had like 4 straight days of Easter stuff. My son had an Easter egg hunt on Thursday before Good Friday. We did a thing with my parents on Good Friday. We did a thing with my wife's mom's side on Saturday. Did another whole thing on Sunday with my wife's dad's side. So then we did our own thing, which we got him an Easter basket. We actually got 2. One was like a little Cookie Monster thing. And he got books and he got Frisbee, toys, Bluey cup. His favorite was this dinosaur umbrella that we got him. He immediately wanted to just go around and use it and hit people and hit things with it. But I like to do stuff different because if anybody knows, in last month's episode, I talked about the experience of with St. Patrick's Day and how we handled the leprechaun. I'm not going to spoil it here. Just go back and listen to last month's episode. But this time, we had the Easter baskets, of course, and then we kind of had little like candy things, made it look like it was rabbit food. But what I did was I smeared ketchup on our kitchen sink and had the head of a stuffed animal that was a rabbit in the sink. And I said, just like that leprechaun, no one makes a GD mess in this house. So here's the thing. My son, while distraught, I have actually saved us a ton of money because now the Easter Bunny can't come back to the house anymore because he's decapitated in a kitchen sink. But he had fun. He got tons of stuff. I don't even remember all. Just different toys and cards and cars and candy and clothes and you name it. My wife and I did get some Sonic gift cards for Easter. How you doing? It was $50, so I think we can get a corn dog and a Mountain Dew because Sonic is super expensive. So, besides that, I want to share one story real quick, and this really isn't a funny story, but I still really can't believe what I saw. But here in Nashville, I went to see a musical called Kimberly Akimbo. It was great. Really enjoyed it. But during intermission, I was behind this lady. She was probably, 40s, 50s maybe. And she was wearing tennis shoes. This is important because I was about 3 steps behind her, and we were up in the balcony. And I watched this woman trip over her own shoe and fall down at least 10 steps. And I'm sort of chuckling now, but my heart was racing for her because it felt like it was in slow motion. And every step she hit, she made a noise. And her body twisted. I mean, I really couldn't believe it. And I don't think anybody else even noticed. There was no one coming up the steps. Like, if someone's told me it was just her and I up there and no one else, I would have believed it. But obviously there was nothing that I could do because my wrist hurt. And so, but I did check on her afterwards. I even told her that, because I heard her say something about how she thought her ankle was broke. And I'm like, you should probably have someone like from this facility check you out. And I did a wink wink, as in like, you might could sue the shit out of them. I don't know if they have cameras and they may watch her trip over her own feet. I'm not sure, but I thought it was worth it. So anyway, I got 2 shows, and but I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. And it's really weird how something like that you can just watch, but it feels like it's happening to you because you all of a sudden you're out of breath and your heart was racing, and all I did was stand there and watch this woman fall literally heels over head. And I don't know, I had this vision of her like going over like the huge balcony and just falling into the orchestra. Like I scared myself even before it was done. But I have another story that's actually a part of one of the movies that we're going to review today. But I saw a lot of shit that week. So before I get into the movies, I got 4 good ones. Well, actually maybe 3 good ones and then one that made a lot of money. But be sure to check out The Accountant 2 is out. We have a podcast on National Movie Dispatch that covers Ben Affleck. We got a piece on Warfare from our buddy Brett, which just so happens to be one of the movies I'll be talking about today. And Tom Hardy has a new movie on Netflix called Havoc. I wrote a review about it. That's also on Nashville Movie Dispatch. And what you got? Stoney's Random Movie Journal is out there as well. So anyway, check that stuff out. NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. And when we come back, Jack Black is back in a video game movie. And oh man, does he get wild as hell as Steve. So the movie is Minecraft. You may have heard of it. Let me preface this by saying that I am completely aware that this movie is not for 40-year-olds like me. On top of that, I've never even played the game. Not even once by accident. But I will say this, I sure do hope the game is more entertaining to play than the movie was to watch. As far as the video game, Minecraft's success is undeniable. 300 million copies have been sold worldwide, and there's been nearly 170 million monthly active players. It's the best-selling video game of all time. According to Wikipedia, it says, what is the original version of Minecraft? Development began for the original edition of Minecraft, then known as Cave Game, and now known as the Java edition, on May 10th, 11th, or 12th of 2009 and ended on May 13th, when Person released a test video on YouTube of an early version of the game dubbed the Cave Game Tech Test. So there's the origins of it. As far as Minecraft the movie, per Rotten Tomatoes, welcome to the world of Minecraft where creativity doesn't just help you craft, it's essential to one's survival. 4 misfits: Garrett the Garbage Man Garrison, played by Jason Momoa; Henry, played by Sebastian Eugene Hansen; Natalie, played by Emma Myers; and Dawn, played by Danielle Brooks, find themselves struggling with ordinary problems when they are suddenly pulled through a mysterious portal into the overworld, a bizarre cubic wonderland that thrives on imagination. To get back home, they'll have to master this world and protect it from evil things like piglins and zombies, while embarking on a magical quest with an unexpected expert crafter, Steve. That's Jack Black. Together, their adventure will challenge all five to be bold and to reconnect with the qualities that make each of them uniquely creative, the very skills they need to thrive back in the real world. So, this is to put it politely, a family-friendly, mindless mess, directed by Jared Hess. That rhymed. He directed Napoleon Dynamite, and you may have also heard maybe the Nacho Libre, that had Jack Black. There are moments where there is some of that Napoleon Dynamite humor, specifically in the town where everyone lives in Chuglas, Idaho. Apparently it's the so-called potato chip capital of America. But I think Hess could have snuck in way more. It's very difficult to see this nothing more than just a cash grab built lazily with cheap blocks. There is a great message about the perseverance of imagination and creativity, but it's in a movie that doesn't really have much of either. Black and Momoa are broing out, which is fun for a little while at least. They're on a totally different wavelength than everybody else and are having a blast, so good for them. They're all in on the silliness and just the absurdity of it all, which you kind of have to be for a movie like Minecraft. Jack Black's basically himself shoved into a blue sweater. His wild and crazy moves and hand gestures are rocking out nonstop. Momoa is a little bit of an ultimate warrior and macho man, kind of stuck in the 80s from head to toe. Both guys, in real life, Jack Black and Jason Momoa, are probably cool as hell. But even they wear you down after a while. What I found really sort of annoying is Steve, all of a sudden, he kind of goes in and out calling Garrett Gargar. It made me not really want to hang out with them anymore. So there's that. Then there is this unnecessary storyline featuring Jennifer Coolidge, who plays the vice principal at the school where the two main kids go. And she has a night out with one of the nitwit villagers that she accidentally hits with her car. That's strange, and honestly, it's just plain stupid. I don't think anybody's going to be shocked by this, but as of, I don't know, I think, let's see, this comes out at the end of the month, so basically, I don't know, a week or so ago, this kind of tells you what all you need to know. It is the Rotten Tomatoes critic score compared to the audience score. The critic score is 48% rotten with about 170 reviews. The audience score is 87% with over 5,000 verified ratings. So, quality is irrelevant in this case, and the reality is this: a Minecraft movie will enthrall those who it's meant for. And listen, there's no shame in that. But I mean, let me just tell you, does anybody remember the opening weekend numbers for this thing? 157 million. It was not only the biggest domestic debut of the year so far, but the best in history for a video game adaptation. So I think it goes without saying, it's practically guaranteed that kids in general will enjoy, and fans of the game will surely get a kick out of the Minecraft world and its characters and all of those Easter eggs that I don't have a damn clue about. And hey, just how excited are these people? Well, the disruptions seem... Apparently, there was a lot of chaos in the movie theaters where people were seeing Minecraft, and that they were mostly occurring during the movie's chicken jockey scene, which I guess has gone viral, and it's where the characters yell the phrase and a baby zombie appears on the screen, riding a chicken like a horse. Apparently, there were kids that would chant along while jumping on seats, screaming, and throwing popcorn. So, teenage fans have been reportedly destroying theaters, tossing popcorn buckets, spilling soda, jumping seats, vomiting. I don't know how that happens, and starting physical fights, reporting as Page 6 reports. Apparently, it's gotten so bad that law enforcement has had to be called. So, people are just having a ball with Minecraft. But I really didn't. Vick's Flicks rating for a Minecraft movie, 2 out of 5 for me. And coming up next, it is an all-out, immersive, hellish war, and I'm going to tell you about it. The movie's called Warfare, but before we get into the movie, this was at an IMAX screening. Now, press were invited, but then you could actually buy a ticket to see it as well. So it was kind of a mashup of all different walks of life. But I would say about 2 minutes before showtime, I have watched this press guy kind of move around as other people started to sit down, because I guess he just kind of wants to sit by himself and no one around him, which I totally get. That IMAX theater we went to here locally, it's huge, and there was maybe 30 people in it, so there's plenty of room. However, I see him move kind of back behind me, but kind of over to the right, and he's up a couple rows, and I don't know how it started, but I just remember hearing, "You've got the whole theater." And these two guys who I'm paid for theirs says, I paid for these seats. And I hear the press guy go, "Okay, cool, I didn't." And I hear a little bit, something else is said. And then I hear the guy who's paid for the seats, one of the buddies, basically tells this press guy, "If you got something else to say, tell me, because I will kick your ass." And I am not sure what that press guy said, but I'll tell you what I saw. I saw a grown man pop out of that theater seat in maybe 0.2 seconds, walks all the way down his aisle, turns, walks straight up to that press guy. And just like this woman at TPAC, my heart is racing because I'm thinking I'm about to see these dudes throw some meat hooks, or at least one of them to knock out that press guy. And the press guy says, "Touch me and you'll go to jail," which reminded me of, is it Rocky 6, where they're fighting in the street and Rocky beats that Tommy guy, and the guy that's basically supposed to be the Don King character says, "Touch me and I'll sue you." And then Rocky uppercuts him and says, "Sue me for what?" And that's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for that guy to uppercut him and say, "It ain't over, dude. It ain't over by a long shot," while he's in handcuffs leaving. But his friend's trying to tell him to come back down. And the guy has his fist, he's ready. He does not hit him. This actually starts to get into the beginning of the movie. And then, only then, do other people in the theater start to acknowledge what's happened, and they say, "All right, guys, cool," at the movie starting. So basically, they could have done Fight Club, but when that movie started, it's time to shut the hell up. So I really appreciated it. But back to Warfare. Per Rotten Tomatoes, written and directed by Iraq War veteran Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland, who directed last year's Civil War. Warfare embeds audiences with a platoon of American Navy SEALs on a surveillance mission gone wrong in insurgent territory. It's a visceral, boots-on-the-ground story of modern warfare and brotherhood, told like never before, in real time and based on the memory of people who lived it. So, this is, it was written and directed by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza, like we said. And Mendoza actually was a military advisor on Alex Garland's Civil War. But Warfare is a violent, visceral, and immersive real-time war film that's equally horrifying and heart-pounding. It's more than just a technical spectacle. It's a devastatingly authentic and unflinching depiction of what soldiers endure. The resounding sound design alone is nerve-shattering. I cannot recommend this article enough. It's on IndieWire, and it's how Warfare created the ultimate you are there experience of combat through sound. It involves the Civil War sound designer Glenn Fremantle and the supervising sound editor Ben Barker. It's a fascinating read about what all that went into making this feel and sound as real as possible. But that's on IndieWire if you want to go check that out. Warfare it's a tremendous team effort by all to honor those who experienced it. The film is full of a young, top-tier cast that includes Will Poulter, Joseph Quinn, Kit Connor, Cosmo Jarvis, and Michael Gandolfini. In their portrayals of these real heroes fighting for their survival inside a literally living hellscape, the cast is phenomenal. Their courage, their fears, their uncertainty, all of it is intensely seen and felt as they are mentally and physically being decimated by the atrocities of war. Their personalities are able to poke through, but it's these guys' bond that's most essential. We believe they would not hesitate, not even for a second, to put their lives on the line for not just our country, but for each other. This is via IndieWire, called The Warfare Cast drilled the acting out of them with a 3-week boot camp, ritual head shaving, and more. So this is a piece from IndieWire. There's actually a post-screening Q&A. And Kit Connor, he says, he's quoted saying, "I know that we all wanted to create this brotherhood and create this bond because that would make our jobs a lot easier. So the first thing that we did on our first night was shave each other's heads, which was something that excited us all, and it felt slightly ritualistic. We suddenly felt like we were immediately vulnerable with each other, and it just felt like we had each other's backs. And yeah, we trained, we ate together, we would do everything together. We practically lived in each other's pockets for about 2 months. I think it really does come across in the film. There's a real love between us all." And it says that the emotions of the actors had to be absolutely real. They're not heightened in a Hollywood fashion, but organically emerging from such a meticulous recreation of what happened and utilizing military-style bonding rituals for the cast. This included putting the cast through a 3-week boot camp to get a condensed version of Special Forces training. They'd have to rely on each other when they were uncertain if they could even rely on themselves. When you see each of them carrying 60-pound packs in the film, they're really carrying 60-pound packs. The piece goes on to say that, and this is Will Poulter's quoted saying that the bond that developed naturally through the training and the emotional side of things was taken care of. There was very little acting required because when I looked down and saw Joe Quinn, I didn't have to imagine that I cared for him in that moment. I'd spent every waking minute with him for the couple of months prior. It's something said that acting is reacting because of the connection formed among the cast when they are then seeing each other wounded with bloody makeup effects, not to mention that sound effects of explosions and gunfire were piped in on set via speaker system to add to the actor's sensory overload. The reactions are genuine, spontaneous, and urgently felt. So it's honestly unfathomable that these guys that are younger than me have to make these life or death decisions in an instant. And for one of these guys, Elliot Miller, he suffered from a traumatic brain injury that actually left him with absolutely no memory of the incident that Warfare depicts. The film is especially for him, but Mendoza hopes that it's freeing for the rest of their group as well. This was a part of an IndieWire interview that Mendoza gave, and he said, "I think people in the beginning were worried that this would be triggering for PTSD, but I think it'll be the opposite. The honesty and the truth is actually more liberating for us." So, Warfare surely has an opinion regarding the Iraq War, and the final scene being a haunting, revelatory one that asks what is all of this truly for. However, its number one priority is giving us a real account of what these guys had to deal with, no matter the reason they were sent over there in the first place. In Rolling Stone's review, it's titled "Warfare Wants You to Experience What Combat Feels Like Firsthand," and it ends with this: "The only agenda in warfare is to give you a sense of not just what happened, but how everything felt while it was happening. A tall order, to be sure, but one that Garland, Mendoza, their cast and crew pull off shockingly well. Yes, authenticity is key, as well as the sheer battering the film puts you through, the sensory overload, the emphasis of shock over all. You will assuredly leave the theater shook. But pay attention to that opening series of title cards, which start out as a list of scene-setting stats. This was the mission. Here is the date. These were the people involved." Then a disclaimer mentions that this look back was compiled through various interviews with those who survived that harrowing attack. This film uses only their memories, reads the next card. It's their version of what happened, their traumatic recollections, their emotional conflicts, their gratitude for each other, and for still drawing breath. The review by, I think it was David Freer, says, "They are now the ones controlling the narrative, and we are now the ones bearing witness." And I must say, witness we do. This ain't no glamorized Hollywood version. This is an in-your-face more experience where the silences are just as terrifying as the screams that follow the gunshots and explosions. It's a fucking nightmare, as it should be. Warfare gets a VIX Flix rating of 4 out of 5. One of the best films of the year so far. And coming up next, we are going to switch gears and talk about a first date with a woman that won't get off her flippin' phone. Drop is the name, and per Rotten Tomatoes, Emmy nominee Megan Faye. Hope I'm saying that right. She starred in White Lotus and The Perfect Couple. She plays Violet, a widowed mother on her first date in years who arrives at an upscale restaurant where she's relieved that her date, Henry, Brendan Scullner, who was in It Ends With Us, is more charming and handsome than she expected. But their chemistry begins to curdle as Violet begins being irritated and then terrorized by a series of anonymous drops to her phone. She's instructed to tell nobody and follow instructions, or the hooded figure she sees on her home security cameras will kill Violet's young son and babysitting sister. Violet must do exactly as directed, or everyone she loves will die. Her unseen tormentor's final directive: kill Henry. Which wasn't that a... Was that a movie that had what's his name from District 9 in there, where it's all first person? It was something Henry. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this. So, Drop is a fast-paced and highly stylized Hitchcockian thriller from the director of Happy Death Day movies. It's pretty clever in how it's told, capturing your attention and keeping it while you are, basically playing the guessing game with the two leads, Megan and Brandon. And they actually portray people we care about. And it's easy to believe they would match each other on a dating app. They make one cute couple. I'm going to read something from the Geek Vibe Nations review by my buddy Dom Fisher, who is a part of the Music City Film Critics Association. He's also a Critics' Choice member. In his review, an insidious adrenaline rush is what he called Drop. Says, while mystery keeps this story exciting and interesting, it's the performances that keep it afloat. Plagued by past trauma and harboring a myriad of trust issues, Megan Faye truly brings Violet to life, from the pitch changes in her voice and unassuming panic glances to her body language. She's perfectly balancing hope and hurt. Brandon Sklener's Henry has to be the most patient person or one of the most sensitive and intuitive to stick around for the date from hell. Shrouded in mystery, you wonder, is he desperate or hiding something? Either way, he's going to gain some fans. So the performances are definitely deliver. They are the main attractions here, but I will say, as Violet, Megan is gripping and very convincing while staying in basically a constant state of suspense. That transfers through to us who are on edge every time that damn phone vibrates, and it's quite a bit. Drop is simplistic yet suspenseful, bolstered by not only the twists and turns that are thrown our way, but to a large extent, the fantastic approach that's taken by Christopher Landon, the director, along with his talented cast and crew. Now, I will say almost all of Drop is abundantly absurd. There is one where Henry gets wine spilled on him. And he says, hey, I got to go to the bathroom and get cleaned up. Let me tell you something. Ain't no man ever done that. If we get food, wine, whatever, we might dab it with maybe a napkin or something, but we definitely ain't going to the bathroom to see if we can get it cleaned and going to put it in the sink and under the air dryer. Let me tell you, if we can't get it off with whatever is at the table, we're probably just going to sit and let it dry. I've done that when I've pissed my pants, so I definitely ain't doing it for wine. But anyways, who cares about absurdity? Virtually from start to finish, Drop is a nerve-wracking fun. That's what it wants to be, and that's all that it needs to be. Drop gets a VixFlix rating of 3.5 out of 5 stars. And coming up next, we are going to end with a dance with the devil. Sinners. That's the movie. That's the dance with the devil part. Per Rotten Tomatoes, trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers, both played by Michael B. Jordan, return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. Sinners is bold and bloody, scary and sexy, electric and exhilarating, audacious and ambitious. Ryan Coogler's historical vampire film sinks its teeth into community, culture, and liberation, gorgeously told through the Delta blues that stirs the soul. It's a slow burn that excellently establishes our world and characters before the sun goes down and the devil himself comes out to play. This may be Coogler's first foray into the horror genre, but this sure as hell ain't new to him. He's practically grown up with it. Per Deadline, in an interview, they asked, what are your go-to horror movies that made you have to play in that sandbox? Coogler says, I consider Spielberg's work in the horror space to be a bit of a North Star, and it is complicated with him because he hasn't out and out made a horror movie before. But I would classify Jaws as a creature feature horror film, Jurassic Park as well. Jurassic Park is a stealth horror movie. The whole thing of what if dinosaurs were real, but when you talk about those T-Rex scenes, the Velociraptor intro, the raptors in the kitchen, that is out and out horror cinema. And it's popular, it's visceral, it gets the audience feeling like they're on a damn roller coaster ride. And then he says, taking it back, he said, I love John Carpenter. My dad's favorite movie apparently is Rocky II. And Coogler says, we never talked about his second favorite movie, which was Halloween. And if I watched Rocky II 5 times, I watched Halloween 3 times. One of his mom's favorite Carpenter films is The Thing. They love Carpenter, but different films, and the only film they ever agreed on to watch was The Fugitive. Otherwise, he's watching Steven Seagal films, his dad, and his mom's watching Martin Scorsese films. It says, my dad, every time he's taking Halloween and maybe Assault on Precinct 13. For mom, it was The Thing. He talks about how he loves the isolation, the practical effects, the cosmic horror of it. And so he says, all of us, the threat and idea, and says, hey, you got to stop this thing or it's going to wreck the planet. And then he also says there's Robert Rodriguez and From Dusk Till Dawn. So for Coogler, I feel like this is kind of in the same vein as Jordan Peele, as Coogler uses horror to speak to bigger and more profound themes, particularly centering around Black America, as this is set in 1932 Mississippi, where Jim Crow and KKK are alive and well in the South. And now with his first original blockbuster, that's an arguably an epic cinematic experience. It also is Coogler's most personal. An Interview magazine, where he actually sat down with LeBron James, he tells him why Sinners is his most personal movie yet. He says, "For me, the movie started with my relationship with my uncle, who is from Mississippi. He was the older male figure in my life, and the only music he would listen to is the blues. We would listen to it everything from Too Short to Tony, but he would only listen to the blues. I would sit there with him, and he would talk about Mississippi and how he came up and how that influenced everything that he was on now. When I was, Coogler says, when he was working in Creed in 2015, his uncle passed away, and he said he had already made a film about the Bay with Fruitville Station, which was his first collaboration with Michael B. Jordan. I was making a movie about Philly. I made a couple of movies about Wakanda, and now I'm coming back home in a different way. I'm looking at the American South, which is outside of the continent of Africa, where black people call home." And he says that there is with Sinners, that there's also a cultural aspect to it that he thinks people might vibe with. He says the film is about generations that came before us, being set in the 1930s. What I learned through the process of researching this was that culture, those people from the Great Depression, they really dictated what was cool at that time and what remains to be cool today. He said that there are so many stylistic things and phrases and ways of looking at the world that it permeates society to this day. It's our grandparents, our uncles and all that, when they thought was cool is what we think is cool. He says all of that is in Sinners. So production design, costumes, sound, cinematography, they're all firing on all cylinders to immerse us in a mesmerizing genre mashup. It's a bloodthirsty, harrowing journey of survival. As I said, Michael B. Jordan plays twins, and this is his best yet. His confidence and charisma is, of course, there, and it feels effortless, but he's also able to reveal these different sides of these two twins that are known as Smoke and Stacks. And there's kind of the cool one. There's kind of the one that's kind of more, I think, kind of freewheeling. There's one that's kind of more business-oriented. But there's this nice balance between the two, and not only what they represent as individuals, but also as who they are as men and who they are together as brothers. But as I said, when they reveal these different sides of these twins, it's who they were and who they've become since they had gone off to World War I and then went into got into Chicago and got involved in some mob shit. So the locations may have changed, but they always faced the same persecution. I'm paraphrasing here, but there's a line in the movie that basically says, where one of the twins is talking to their cousin, that Chicago is like Mississippi, but with tall buildings rather than plantations. However, if these two twins have learned one thing, it's money is power. And the collaborations that have happened between Jordan and Coogler, they keep raising the bar, and Sinners is a pretty damn high one. Haley Steinfeld is sensational. Delroy Lindo as a drunk blues musician is terrific as always, and actually adds quite a bit of humor to the film. The captivating, I hope I'm saying this right, Wunmi Masaku plays Smoke's ex Annie. She seems to be really into the talismans and remedies from the hoodoo tradition, but that doesn't mean that she can save everyone. Though when the fangs do come out, she's the first one to know what they're dealing with. Jack O'Connell plays the main vampire named Remick. We don't see him until, honestly, about an hour or so into Sinners. Our buddy Brett actually forwarded me a piece in the New Yorker. It's a review where it's titled "Sinners is a virtuosic fusion of historical realism and horror." And it describes Remick as a musician, a white cultural appropriator who schemes with soft words and sharp teeth to get hold of the music played by Sammy, that's their cousin, Slim, and other black musicians in their circle. He wants their songs and their stories, he says, but of course he has nothing of the experience or the history that gave rise to them. O'Connell was great. I love what Coogler does with the overall vampire look, their presence, and what they represent. More so, Remick being Irish, I think, is a fascinating way to kind of have these vampires feel somewhat connected to Smoke and Stax and the others, because the Irish people know what oppression looks like and feels like as well. I will say that when things get gory and you kind of bring out the wooden stakes, the silver bullets, the garlic, when all that comes into play, that's when Sinners gets a little too conventional for me. Oddly enough, it's that stuff that's actually not as interesting as what the rest of the story has to say. Now, it doesn't last long, but when the other elements of this story are so top tier, it is easy to notice, yet this hardly threatens what makes this so singular and special. Vampire movies will be held to an entirely different standard after this. I won't mess this up. Ludwig Göransson has worked on most, if not all, of Coogler's films, and this is their greatest achievement thus far. The music, the blues, is incredibly intoxicating and brings such a mystical presence to Sinners. That same New Yorker review says, "Here's what Sinners isn't. A story of a musician selling his soul to the devil. It's clear from the outset that Coogler's view of myth is sharply revisionist. The movie opens with a voiceover monologue about musicians with seemingly supernatural talent, known by various terms in various cultures, whose art can bring healing to the community, but it also attracts evil. In other words, evil isn't the music, but comes from the outside, isn't in the music, but comes from the outside and finds it. The movie's pivot to vampires is a supernatural vision of the real-life snares set for great black musicians. Coogler transforms the Fashitian blues legend into an allegory of historical horror." So all of that brings us to Miles Catton. He is the son of a gospel singer, and her name is Timony Figueroa. I should have practiced these, and has been performing since he was 2 years old. He's beyond impressive in his acting debut as Sammy. He's the preacher's boy that has that supernatural talent that could very well save your soul or perhaps be your damnation. I just read, a couple days ago, that he actually learned the blues guitar specifically for this part, and he practiced for over 5 hours a day for a couple of months. He is phenomenal. The fact that this was his first acting job it blows my mind. But there is a musical montage where Miles is singing "I Lied to You," and I don't want to spoil it for you. You probably have already read some stuff about it because it's sensational, but it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen on screen. This is via IndieWire. As Coogler explained when he was a guest on IndieWire's Filmmaker Toolkit podcast, if audiences were down for vampires to show up and take chunks out of people's jugulars, there's no reason why he couldn't use film language to weave different strands of black music history together and create a sense of immorality that wasn't vampire related. That is in reference to not only just the music itself that's in there, but also that musical montage I was talking about. You have to see it. It's super cool. Sinners is the best film that I've seen so far this year. Coogler and Co. have a lot to say, maybe too much at times, but this is a master at work with a voice that's creative and crucial for filmmaking. There are 2 post-credit scenes, with the first one initially coming off as a sort of spoof. However, once it sort of settles in and those last couple of lines are spoken, it hits hard on what Sinners is about. what it means to truly find physical and spiritual freedom. Go see it in theaters. Make sure it's in IMAX. You won't regret it. Sinners gets a VixFlix rating of 4.5 out of 5. And that will do it for another volume of these Cinema Chronicles right here on Nashville Movie Dispatch. Again, I am your host and Sobro's resident film critic, Brandon Vick, and member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association and board member of Music City Film Critics Association. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Brandon V, Sir Brandon on Letterboxd. And don't forget to check out all of our work at NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. And until next month, just go see a damn movie. Oh.